So to the woman, God said, I will greatly increase your pains in childbearing. So pain in childbearing. With pain you will give birth to children. Your desire will be for your husband. So desire for husband. I'll need to explain both of these. And he will rule over you. Actually, I should put that also over here. Husband rule over. Okay. So pain in childbearing. I will mention there was one time, one of my professors was saying when he was at the seminary, like getting trained to become a pastor himself, he was saying that one of his professors giving a lesson, it was on Genesis 3. One of the students phoned in and was saying like, oh, I can't be there because my wife is giving birth. And since he was doing this, he's like, oh, do you want to ask her if she's having any pain in childbirth? So
do you want to die?
Exactly. And that's why he didn't ask her.
Yeah, smart man.
And that's why the professor was joking about it. Yes, pain in childbearing. And the idea is that since human beings are designed to be fruitful and multiply, have life, they're the procreators to God's creator. They're in the image of God, so they're supposed to be bringing about new creation. But since they are trying to bring life into the world, now it is going to be tainted by pain. And we have pain and suffering in the world, of course. So our lives are fraught with sorrow and suffering. But more so, like if you're bringing life into the world, it is now dealing with something we would associate with wickedness. So if we're talking about Jesus Christ, he's dying to produce life. People are producing life, but at the cost of basically going through a horrible experience that maybe women might associate with the pain of death. Jesus actually links these in John chapter 16, where he's saying, he's basically giving a parable to the disciples, preparing them for his death and resurrection, because as they usually are, they don't know what's going on. So Jesus is saying, okay, well, there will come a time when I explain things clearly, but for right now, we have when a woman is in childbirth, she is experiencing great pain and tribulation when her hours come. But when a man comes out, when the man gets raised, then she forgets her pain and is replaced with joy. So Jesus is trying to get to the fact of, well, yes, there would be death for us, but in the resurrection, in the coming of life, there will be a joy where the sorrows of the old world will not be applicable. They would definitely be there, they'd be there in memory, but they're not going to have the overarching effect over the child. Like that's not how the child is defined by pain. It is defined by joy. When I was going over that with the women in the Tuesday morning Bible study, because they had given multiple children, they were saying, yeah, that's basically how it went. Well, it's like, it was terrible, but we love our children.
It's why you see women smiling and like sighing in relief after
Yes.
they give birth. Like
Yes.
it's painful, but
Yeah.
they still get the joy of bringing life into this world.
Exactly.
And the pain, the few hours or whatever, pain is very
Yeah.
fleeting compared
Yeah,
to.
and also I think like women's bodies are like, they forget the pain of childbirth in order to, encourage having another
more
one.
than one, yeah.
Yes.
And other animals, from my experience in nature, don't seem to suffer pain outwardly like humans do in childbirth.
Usually not as much,
Right.
anyways.
Yeah,
It reminds me of pandas.
they're not so manifest anyway,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Like pandas, they can sneeze and they just pop out. It's like, yeah, I wish that
Well,
happened.
Human women can, because does something to the body as well, so
Yeah.
Mhm.
But
it won't be quite as
so-
easy for
Yeah, no. But no, animals have such painless childbirths most of the
It
time.
seems
Yeah.
like relatively, yeah.
It's so.
Yes. But this is also just kind of hammering home to humanity just how much a cost life has.
Right.
Yeah. But also with women, we're seeing family being the issue. So with as I was talking about with Eve when she was bringing her husband into this, like that was going against the created order. And we're seeing that this is also going to result in the disruption of the created order here. So I hate to erase this, but so desire here isn't what we would normally think of desire, because you would go, oh yeah, well she would just want to have a husband. It's like, well, no, that was actually, why would that be a curse? Because that was supposed to be part of the Garden of Eden. Like God saw that it's not good for man or woman to be alone, so he wants people with some togetherness. So why would this be bad? Well, you can translate this as lust, or you can also translate it, let's say, covetousness. So to give you an idea, the actual Hebrew word underneath this is used of Cain against his brother in the next chapter. So Cain's desire was for Abel's good reputation with God. And this led him to, well, basically murder his brother. Like it is something that is leading to sin, which is basically what covetousness does. It is trying to seek what is not yours. So the idea is that the woman's idea is to reverse the created order so that she is in charge. Now, I'm not going to say all girl bosses are bad. So
That's not a word I was expecting to hear at Bible study.
and yet it's occurred. Anyways, so if you actually look at the last chapter of Proverbs, it deals with, well, what is the ideal woman? And in Proverbs, it's discussing, okay, well, this woman is taking care of the household. She's looking after the kids. She's looking after her husband. But it's also talking about how she can be incredibly industrious and can actually go out into the fields and can manage the household. So sometimes I just get in my mind Katie Luther, the wife of Martin Luther, because in addition to being a wife and mother, she was also running that household pretty dang efficiently. She was in charge of all the servants. Luther didn't care about that. He just left that to her. Like he's like, I need to do theology, and she's like, no, I'm going to do this. So she had control over the servants. She was also running the brewery in the basement, and she was managing the student accounts because they were having students with them. So she was very much industrious. And she was trying to take care of the household by earning an income, but she was doing that through production. So for women who are like going out to work in the modern day, like that wouldn't have been the go-to for the ancient world. But yeah, today that would still be in line with what we would associate with the book of Proverbs. They're going out to earn an income to make sure that the family is taken care of. The inversion of the order more so is trying to replace man with woman. And I would say that this is definitely third and fourth wave feminism, where what's going on is a rejection of the traditional gender roles in the sense of women need to replace men. And when I say replace men, and when I was reading through some of this, it is very much, well, women need to adopt all these traditional masculine traits so that they can be in the positions of power and remove themselves from motherhood. Now, for a little bit earlier version, say second wave feminism, the main book for that is The Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir. And what she's saying is, at various points in the book, women are enslaved to their biology because women are so subject to their hormones, they need to be freed from them. And women are also enslaved to their desire for men, for the desire of the sexual act, because then they will just put themselves into positions to be oppressed by the men. So they're also oppressed by marriage, because then they have to help out their husband, and they're also oppressed by childbearing, because then you're pregnant and you can't do as much as you want. And they're also oppressed by motherhood, because then they have to take care of the child. And she goes on, basically saying that everything that we would associate with femininity is evil and oppressive.
That's just shaming women for being who they are. That's
Yes.
the exact opposite effect of what she wants.
Yeah.
The exact
Well,
opposite.
this is actually what de Beauvoir wants, because she's coming from certain philosophical schools. So she is trying to dissociate from that. The most famous quote that she has from that book is, one becomes a woman, saying that womanhood is not innate, but you choose to become one. So this is where, so she's meaning that in one sense, and then third wave feminism takes it up in another sense, because she's going from existentialism, where being precedes essence, so you kind of decide what you're going to become as you go. But for third wave feminism, it's postmodernist, which is doing away from all norms and, I'd say, reality to a degree, but rejecting certain forms of reality for internal reality. So one becomes a woman in third wave feminism is you have to give the expression, the performative actions and appearance of a woman to become a woman. Third wave feminism, at least at the beginning, was very confused about certain things, where they're trying to figure out, okay, do lesbians count as a third gender, or is there even a second gender? Do women actually exist as a gender? Maybe man is the only gender, and then woman is just the genderless, and then in order to get power, they have to become as men.
At that point, if you're getting
Yes.
that confused about things, honestly, just give up. Just don't.
Well, that's what I would have liked them to do, but then they invented the new transgender issues that we're dealing with today, where you have to performatively act out whatever gender that you have, and certain third wave feminists, such as the main one who's trying to come up with these ideas, Judith Butler. She's saying that the biological sex isn't innate; it is actually gender that's innate, and then gender makes your biological reality. At which point, how can you? Exactly. Yeah, but this is ideas that are out in these forms of feminism. So I do appreciate first wave feminism, because first wave feminism was trying to recognize the lack of power between men and women in society, women not having a vote, women not being able to represent their families, who are not getting inheritances, etc., etc. So it's trying to give women kind of an equal share of rights within society. So first wave feminism is pretty good. But then when you bring in certain ideologies in the 20th century, it gets pretty bad, although some of them are still in first wave feminism, because Mary Wollstonecraft, she kind of argues a little bit both sides. A little bit. One side she does very well in the vindication of the rights of women, and then in her novels she kind of goes in a little bit of a different direction. Yes. So yes, modern feminism does go against, well, how do you define women? So also when you find people who are trying to be performatively women, they also just give you the idea of what they think women should be. So they're the ones, like if you see some of them who are trying to transition from male, like biological male to woman, they're the ones who are putting on like tons of makeup, who are wearing the halter tops and like being very dainty. Yeah, but that's not all women. It's just not. And anyway, yeah, so it's basically what they think women should be, or at least their version of women. So yeah, it gets confused. So I would say that this is in part what's going on with some of these curses, like with the males transitioning to femininity. Like there's not going to be these specific curses, because this is for the women more so. But when women are desiring to basically become man, which is basically what Simone Beauvoir was saying in her book, The Second Sex, because she's saying like all these things that are basically how you define a woman are oppressive and we shouldn't have them. Yeah, it's.
I don't want to get ahead. I don't want to get ahead.
Okay. And on the other side of things, husband ruling over her, this is also undoing the created order because, again, what is the husband's position?
To protect.
To protect and be head of the household.
Yeah.
So not to rule, but to be the protective head. So he's supposed to give the protection and sense of a covering that the woman feels that she can actually be in that household protected and loved and cared for, that this is somebody that she could actually bring up children with, if children are in that relationship. In this sense, this is the husband going against his God-given order by just trying to rule and oppress his wife, which we also see happening.
So it's like it got stepped up a little bit from just men being head of what's going on to actually ruling.
Yeah. So the rule would be
Turn it up a notch, right?
Actually, I had to look at the Hebrew again. I think it's a different word.
Okay.
But when you're thinking like humanity has dominion over the animals and the plants, like that would be closer to this, is that man is thinking that he should have dominion over his wife and rule over her, and it's like no. That isn't the relationship.
Okay.
Yeah. So unfortunately, this is against created order. Like this is life, death. This is created order in the world. And then for the curse for the man, Adam, we have. I should be doing this in blue. So cursed is the ground because of you. Through painful toil you will eat of it. So hard labor. So through painful toil you will eat of it all the days of your life. It will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your brow you will eat your food until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken. From dust you are, to dust you will return. So dust to dust. Or, if you will, death, or uncreation, or decreation. Okay. So for the curse is related to man. Obviously, more going back into life and death, not just with the creator.
This is taking a more scientific approach, but what about people who are intersex?
Oh, yes, that is also interesting because there's quite a few different intersex conditions. So some of them are relatively more one side or the other of male, female, and quite a few of them don't actually have a presentation that would be noticeable, like you'd have to actually go to genetics or test hormones and all that stuff. So with intersex, what's going on? Generally, people have in the past defaulted to, if there are Y chromosomes, we would defer this more to male rather than female. What would you like to know about intersex?
I don't know. It's just about like the role of a woman and role of a man in relationships.
Okay.
Like a marriage. Like, I don't know.
Okay. Well, there have been, and I've read this in some pastoral handbooks, because like the intersex conditions have been known since forever.
Yeah, they're biological.
Yeah. So we'd say that, or Christians would say that these are resulting from sin in the sense that creation, as it's breaking down, what would normally be done to conceive a child, there's some variation that is unexpected and is causing some issues. So if you have extra chromosomes or different productions of hormones, like this isn't what we would hope and expect. So for the intersex individuals, what was in the past recommended, I don't see the wisdom in it, was okay, if they're born with both genitalia, pick one, get rid of the other, and then raise the child as that. And I was like, I don't know, that doesn't sound quite right. But that was the recommendation for quite some time. For myself, I would be thinking, well, this person is suffering from this specific condition. It's not going to be life-threatening for them because they're, like, this is just how they are. The life-threatening conditions usually are the ones, let's say with genetics and birth defects, those are the ones where they usually don't survive birth. So like with Down syndrome, you have a chromosome there, but if you have several extra, that one dies in the womb. Yeah. So with the person that's there, minister to them as best as you can. Now that individual is going to be relatively confused because you're kind of in between a few things. What I brought up in another Bible study a while back was, I'm blanking on his name, but the one who won boxing in the Olympics, the female category of Olympics, the past Summer Olympics. Now, this individual was in the women's category. The person was rejected from the female category in the World Championship of Boxing because they detected higher levels of testosterone in the Y chromosome. So that's a pretty good indication of maleness. And there's a lot of controversy about this, as the person was just punching the lights out of all the women in the female categories of the Olympics. And of course, won the gold medal. So afterwards, what was established, because there was a lot of controversy going on at the time, but what was afterwards established was that this person was suffering from an intersex condition where there's an inversion of the male genitalia, and this is a condition only undergone by biological males. So this person is a biological male, but since this was inverted, the person wasn't recognized to be male and was raised as a female all their life. So how do you? So when I was bringing this up and saying like, yeah, there's some iffiness around the whole idea of categorization for boxing, and there are some injuries in the boxing category in the Olympics. So there's that issue, but I had to draw people back to, okay, but what if you were that this person who just won that? Like, how you spent your entire life thinking that you're a woman, whereas you're a biological male, and since your career is fighting in female categories and you're a biological male, now your own livelihood is being threatened. So where on earth are you in that thought process? And I can't really give an actual answer to this because that person really needs to wrestle with this themselves. I would hope that they would embrace the masculinity because that's the biological reality. But there's still going to be tons and tons of work trying to dissociate, or not dissociate, what was the word I'm looking for? Differentiate between how they see themselves and who they are and how the world also sees them. So I don't envy this. I really hope that individual gets some counseling and some Christian counseling. I really hope. But there's not going to be any easy answers. Yeah. So for intersex conditions, I would hope that they would be able to seek out counseling, psychological counseling, spiritual counseling as well, so that they can be brought in the faith. But to kind of come in from a slightly different angle with Christianity, as we come to questions of homosexuality, by homosexuality forbidden in Scripture, but what about homosexuals? They have same-sex attraction. What are you going to try and force them to be straight? That doesn't sound like the best idea, because if they're not attracted to, let's say, biological males, they're not attracted to women, and you're trying to force them into those types of relationships, well, now they're just going to not live up to what their partners need. This isn't necessarily a good thing. Now, there has been quite a few people, homosexuals who are in Christianity, who are able to become straight. So there are people who have done that. To my knowledge, the majority have not, those who have come to Christianity. At which point now you're dealing with loneliness because you want to have relationships, but according to the scriptures, you can't. And you should be looking for ways to mitigate this, and so it's not good for man to be alone, or woman. So how can you make an inviting and uplifting atmosphere at church for this individual so that they're not alone? And how can you, as a friend to this person, how can you help them through desiring for maybe a romantic relationship and not being able to fulfill it? So again, yeah, this is a hard thing. So with anybody within the intersex community, kind of being halfway between some of these things, can they really have a relationship? And that's also something that you need to discuss with them. Who are they attracted to? And with this can be considered against God's law or with God's law, what's going on. So not any easy answers, but you do want to be there lockstep with them so that as they're growing in faith and trying to pursue righteousness, like trying to live rightly, that they have support and care. Okay, so with the man's curse, cursed is the ground. So this makes sense, because do you remember the man's name? Adam. Is this exactly a proper name?
Not really, just means man.
Well, in a sense, it's more mankind. Yeah. But yeah, it also gets used of individuals here and there, but the majority is like, this is humanity. Okay. But Adam or Adam would be the Hebrew. Okay. So ground. I did mention this like a month ago. I don't know, do you remember the word for ground?
It's part of the name of Adam.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, actually, technically, Adam is part of the name of ground.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is adamah.
Right.
So it's basically the feminine form of this word. So masculine, feminine. And since this is like all mankind, like this is including actual biological women. But the idea of mankind comes from the ground. So adamah is the ground, the earthiness of the things, and now Adam is coming out of this as very earthy. So Adam, as coming from the earth, is now put in the image of God, over dominion, having dominion over all creation, over the ground. So when Adam, falls into sin, mankind falling into sin, the ground now falls as well. Now, this being the ground, like it isn't exactly a moral agent, so it's not like it is exactly sinning. That you have some very sinful soil and it's like, I know, how dare it be dirty. So it is suffering the effects of sin more so than it is actually sinning. And this is really what we see with how things break down in the world. So if you go out, people will say, like, oh no, this disease is making us stay at home, or killing this individual, or you have somebody's broken leg, you have these animals attacking human beings, you have typhoons and earthquakes and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's all these sorts of what we could consider natural evils, and that's because they're suffering the effects of sin. So they themselves are not exactly sinning, but they're causing harm to the moral agents over here, the people who can suffer and die. I would also say animals would also be victims of some of this as well, where animals would be suffering and dying, and we don't want that for animals. In any case, all the natural evils are flowing out of the original sin. Humanity going into trying to legislate all creation themselves, and if God is just like giving us the creation, it's like, oh, well, can we actually operate this? No, we keep failing and we keep doing horrible stuff. And then we also get things like pollution and clear cutting and a whole bunch of horrible stuff that we just do to the environment, maybe even also harming those cute little animals and even the not cute ones. Yeah. So I would think like fish on that one. Fish are not cute.
What about mushrooms? They're not animals, but I know you don't like mushrooms.
Oh, they're an alien species.
Don't worry, I
Thank you,
don't like
Francis.
mushrooms. I'm with you.
You put crab meat on this stuff.
Anyways, okay. Now the second part of this, like if the ground is falling, like it is not producing as it would, like everything would be overabundant and God would be providing for humanity through the earth. But now that humanity is removing itself from God, God is no longer providing to the degree that humanity would like. So now humanity has to offer the labor to make things produce. In the scriptural text, it's also saying thorns and thistles are now coming up. Like so when you're sowing seed, it's not just coming back pure crop. There's also going to be weeds there, these things that you do not want. There's going to be disorder among the order that you want. So things, again, suffering from the effects of sin. And you have to work harder, pitch yourself against thorns and thistles if you want to actually have your daily bread.
More toil.
Yes. Yeah. So, and it's the difference between law and grace. Because if we were still completely in the grace of God, it would always be given to us. But now we have to endure much law and hard labor in order to get this out. Yeah. And speaking of law, from dust you came, to dust you shall return. So we are no longer going to be able to live perpetually within the world. So God is ordering our days, and it comes much later that God says this amount of time. But at least at the beginning, he is giving a set amount of time, so your biology is wearing thin, you're breaking down. So from this point of view, we're seeing, what was the point I was about to make? Shoot. Brain work brain. No, it was there. I've all lost it. Okay, so I'll go from at a different angle. So from dust you are, to dust you shall return. So Adam came from dust, he's going back to dust. Now I remember. Okay, so God said, when you eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge, you will surely die in that day. And there's discussion, okay, well, what does it mean to die with this tree? Okay. And the assumption would be, oh, well, you immediately die. Let's say lightning bolt from heaven and you're finished. But what it seems to be is that there is a spiritual death of mankind. They have fallen into sin, and therefore they are separated from God, separated from the source of life himself, and therefore they are no longer able to sustain themselves on their own. They have to rely on what is found around them in creation, so eventually they will run down. But if they had God, they would be able to continue on forever. Brain, why are you doing this to me? I know. Okay. Anyway, so I'll just add any questions, comments, and something that jog my memory.
No, I don't think it will jog your memory.
Probably not. Okay. Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, we can't sustain ourselves. Now, what God then does, and I'll just summarize the last little bit of chapter 3 here, is God speaks among himself. So he's the Trinity, so he speaks among himself. And he goes, it is not good for man to remain here in the garden, because then all things would be possible. Basically what he's saying is, well, if he's here and he eats of the fruit of the tree of life, then he will be forever in this sinful state. So rather than him being forever in this sinful state, man or mankind, so man and woman, if they die, if they're put to death, they would be able to rise up, which is the principle here with the crucifixion. If you put the sinfulness to death, you are able to raise up life alone. Yeah. So humanity is expelled from the Garden of Eden, so away from the tree of life. The tree of life, it will come up again in the restoration of paradise in the book of Revelation. But for now, humanity is not being given life forever in sin, but they are dying spiritually, and therefore now going to end physically. So physically will take time, spiritually is immediate.